said now, boy.
To what extent does systemic racism continue to exist in society, and how can it be addressed?
Act of bunny hugging or blah blah blah.
Racial and social inequality have been deeply rooted in our society for centuries. People of color and other marginalized communities have been subjected to discrimination, oppression, and injustice. However, over the years, individuals and organizations have fought for justice and equality, paving the way for progress and change. This documentary will explore the history of racial and social inequality.
How many of us have to die before y'all get it?
Highlight the ongoing fight for justice.
I am the least racist person you've ever met.
And shed light on the individuals and organizations at the forefront of this movement.
We cannot simply turn away and dismiss those in peaceful protest as troublemakers or paranoid.
If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop.
Throughout American history, marginalized communities have faced various forms of racial and social inequality, discrimination, and oppression. Here are some examples. African Americans were brought to America as slaves and were treated as property. They were forced to work on plantations and were not paid for their labor. They were also subjected to brutal treatment, including beatings, torture, and sexual abuse. After the Civil War, Southern states enacted Jim Crow laws that enforced segregation and denied African Americans their civil rights. They were denied access to education, housing, jobs, and public accommodations. During World War II, the U.S. government forced over 120,000 Japanese Americans into internment camps. They were forced to abandon their homes and businesses and live in harsh and overcrowded conditions. In the 1930s, the Federal Housing Administration created a system of redlining that prevented people of color from obtaining home loans. This led to racial segregation and a lack of economic opportunities for marginalized communities. Marginalized communities, especially Black Americans, have long experienced police brutality and excessive use of force. This has led to the deaths of numerous unarmed individuals and a lack of accountability for the officers involved. Marginalized communities, including immigrants and refugees, have faced discrimination and oppression due to immigration policies that limit their access to resources, education, and healthcare. The current state of racial and social inequality in America is complex and multifaceted, with disparities and inequities evident in many aspects of American society. Racial inequality is pervasive, and Black and brown communities continue to face systemic discrimination in housing, employment, education, healthcare, and the criminal justice system.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell, yeah.
Mitch McConnell. Their stated policy, publicly stated, is to do whatever it takes to see to it that Obama only serves one term. What underlines that? Screw the country. We're going to do whatever we do to get this black man. We're going to do whatever we can to get this black man out of here.
But is that necessarily a racist thing?
It is a racist thing.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did.
How do you close this gap, this huge gap in wealth between whites and blacks?
Reparations.
Right? Reparations. How much are we talking about here, Ta-Nehisi?
Well, we don't actually know, although I will take a check on behalf of myself.
Is anyone on the stage for reparations for slavery for African Americans? Are you?
I am. The Bible says we shall be and must be repairers of the breach. And a breach has occurred, and we have to acknowledge that.
Black Lives Matter is a movement that campaigns against violence and systemic racism towards black people. The organization was founded in 2013 after the death of Trayvon Martin and has since become a global movement with branches in different countries.
7 years ago, I stood on this platform, hoping that the voice of a teenage girl who took a bullet in standing up for her education would be heard.
This is all we hear from our so-called leaders. Words. Words that sound great, but so far has led to no action.
The apartheid regime was an expert in persecuting people psychologically.
The more I've spoken about feminism, the more I have realized that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating.
Martin Luther King Jr. was an American Baptist minister and civil rights activist who played a key role in the American civil rights movement from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. He is best known for his role in the advancement of civil rights using non-violent civil disobedience based on his Christian beliefs.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
Amnesty International is a global human rights organization that campaigns against injustice, inequality, and human rights abuses. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU. The ACLU is a non-profit organization that works to defend and preserve individual rights and liberties guaranteed by the Constitution and laws of the United States. They have been involved in landmark cases such as Brown v. Board of Education and Obergefell v. Social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram have provided a platform for individuals to share their stories, experiences, and views with a global audience. The fight for racial and social equality is far from over. However, we have made significant progress in recent years, thanks to the tireless efforts of activists and organizations fighting for justice. By shedding light on the history of inequality and the ongoing struggle for justice and equality, we can continue to move forward and create a more just and equitable society.